Wait a minute.
We're having technical difficulties. Baby Gagoots is not on his A game today,
Right,
but he's.
Don't blame the booth.
Right. Hello, folks. Happy Veterans Week.
Veterans Week, yes.
Happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans.
Thank all our veterans for their service.
Yes. And
Our veterans made it possible for us to be here and deliver
deliver we will.
some comedy,
Yes.
some information, some informative,
And some very good stories about veterans.
And our fearless leader John LaRocchi is in Atlanta right now.
He's
We don't know what he's doing over there, but he's on assignment.
He'll call in, don't worry.
Right now,
will
he's
call in.
knee deep in mozzarella cheese.
I think he's singing over there. Is he singing? I think
He is singing at the
Singing in the
microwave.
airport or dancing in the airport?
Yeah, he was doing something.
He's in a 7-Eleven asking them why there's not a Wawa in Georgia.
He's always doing something. He's a great guy.
Oh, stop kissing his butt.
Right.
And,
you're already on the show. You don't
Friday night, you guys have a big show. Friday night, where is it?
Lynbrook, right?
The Lynbrook VFW Hall for everything special needs at Angela's house.
Two
Yes.
wonderful causes.
Two wonderful causes.
So,
Tickets are, I think, $15.
Well, we'll show the flyer later on,
We'll
right?
promote it a little bit more later on.
There's the flyer.
There it is.
And is that the flyer? No, that's not. Is that the flyer?
Yeah, it is.
Is that it?
Yeah.
No, well,
No.
No, that's not
That's
it.
the old
That's not
flyer.
it. That's
That's-
the old flyer.
That's
Yeah.
all right. Go to laughtersaves.lives.org and all the information is
It'll
there.
be in Lynbrook this Friday night.
Friday night, get
It's
your
gonna be a great
tickets
show.
for a good cause.
That's the old flyer.
The
new
tickets
flyer
seem
is
to be
on.
pretty reasonably priced.
yeah.
Right.
All of
Right.
our shows
The
are
great
reasonably
Steve
priced.
Oliva will be emceeing that
If you
show.
call John
I am.
LaRocchi, you can get him as a discount.
And the night before,
We're going to be in Wappinger Falls.
Wappingers,
Wherever that
Wappingers.
is.
That is.
Wappingers.
That's right from where my wife is from.
Up in Newburgh,
so,
kind of.
Yep.
yeah.
Newburgh.
Right.
We are going to be at a wine bar. Don't think it's above us to be at wine bars. We
Hey, listen, we
do go in those circles.
We go anywhere. We do comedy
It's
anywhere.
the first
We're
time
Laugh
Pat's
to
going
Save
to be
Lives.
in a wine bar that doesn't have a 7-Eleven sticker on the side of the carton.
That's okay.
But
And
we're going to be up there.
we had a nice show last week for Laughter Saves Lives with John
yes, we did.
Santo,
Yes.
Patty G, myself, and Steve Oliva.
And Steve Oliva, we did a show for veterans at the Massapequa Elks, right near the studio here. And they bus veterans in from the area VA centers. They give them a nice meal, hot meal, and we provided the comedy. So it was great, and
Yeah, it was really good
fantastic
because
to do it.
Sunday I did St. Albans, and then I seen him again Thursday. So it
Same
was like,
veteran was at both shows,
and he's one of the best,
and he's the greatest.
greatest audience.
One of the guys said I was in 3 wars, and it's worse. Seeing Pat 2 times in 4 days is worse than
The
one I
worst.
go to.
Yeah.
I
mean, I
that was
thought
easy for
veterans
you to
deserve
say,
better,
but,
but
We had
did the
about
show.
45 veterans, I think.
Yeah, how many
Silverback.
veterans?
About 45.
45 veterans.
Yeah, there was about 8 of their assistants and
Their
about
assistants.
15 people from the club.
And then from the Elks,
About
it was
60
a bit-
people.
I
About
recognize
60
a
people.
lot of the familiar faces, a few familiar faces from,
Yeah, it was-
from the hospitals.
Right.
We
Good.
performed
Well, they
at.
came from St. Albans,
Stony Brook.
Northport, Northport is it?
Stony Brook.
Yeah,
Stony
in
Brook.
Northport and in Queens. In
No, in
St. Albans,
my
right.
bad.
St.
Yeah,
Albans
yeah.
and Stony Brook. Northport had something else.
Okay.
Northport had
all
something
right.
else. They probably knew we were doing the
but
show.
nevertheless,
they
they
found something
stayed
better.
pretty late. They had a
Yeah,
nice,
great
they had a
time.
nice
Nice
time.
day.
They had a great time.
We did
And,
about an hour show. We all did about 15 minutes each, and it was good. They had a
Nice
ball.
meatloaf dinner they got.
That meatloaf
mashed
dinner,
potatoes,
salad, mashed potatoes.
salad. So the veterans, on that end, they're taking good care of them. They're bringing them out, so they don't have to stay in the hospitals all the time. The ones who have to live at the hospitals, they have nice transport vans, if you
Yeah,
will.
they came in nice
Yeah,
vans.
they have some
Beautiful
real nice ones.
transport
Yeah.
vans.
Yeah,
Damn.
Yeah,
that
Patty
pick 'em
wants
up.
to be transported back and forth to work
Right,
in one of
really.
them.
No, but how
Oh.
great for them to be able to get out. They're in
Yeah.
the hospital all the time. They
Yeah.
get out. They have a nice night. It's great that the Elks does that, and they asked us to help, and we did. So.
Yeah, so it was a great night.
It was
People of the
wonderful.
Elks were very nice, and the people that work for all the facilities are very nice. It was a fun. It was a
The
fun
least
night.
we could do for the veterans.
Least we can do for the
do.
veterans. It was
And
great.
Pat, how many? Pat drank like 3 gallons of water during his set, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that was amazing, right? He was doing a 10-minute set. He had to bring a
Yeah.
stool and water up
I
there.
thought it was an open mic in Kuwait. It was an open mic in Kuwait.
He was
He
doing
was
that.
slugging water down.
That was funny.
Yeah. Pat, check your
That was
sodium
really
levels.
funny.
He's slugging a lot of
Patty G,
water
huh?
lately. But it was a great night.
You guys
so,
are going to get it one time.
That's funny. Pat's a great sport.
Yeah,
He really is.
Takes a
I
lot
tell
of
you.
abuse.
So
He takes as much abuse as say a pinata.
Hey, don't go near the
Let's just hope he
pinatas.
never does a baseball bat segment and brings stuff. We'll have to all be really nice to him then.
hey, can I quickly say, sometimes with John, who's not here, he's at a Wawa right now, but what we did this week, and I usually talk about, vacuuming and doing the windows in my apartment, but I actually went to the Christmas Spectacular.
Was it spectacular?
It was spectacular, and I'm not.
Well, explain the Christmas Spectacular.
The Christmas Spectacular is at Radio City Hall,
yes.
the tourist capital center of the
world
world,
famous.
which I usually avoid. No, thank you, tourists, for coming in, giving revenue to the city. But my mom bought tickets for us and my family, and the Rockettes. I am just amazed at their precision, their professionalism, to say the least. They put on an exquisite act, and what they did, I think, the past couple of years, is they changed the Christmas Spectacular in the sense that you see what happens. See, when you talk to a gorilla whose
Pat's thinking I'd rather get kicked by one of the
whose
Rockettes
extent
right now.
of his theatrical background is shadowing Chaz Palminteri in the Bronx Tale for chicken cutlets.
Hey, he was in 2 movies, and I said someday I'm going to work with that guy.
So when you talk about
Hey, his kids were happy to meet me. They said the first time they ever met a celebrity.
really?
Yes, that's true.
Meeting Big Bird in Times Square didn't count.
And I paused at just the right time. I paused
They
so I
met
could
the-
see you.
they met the
Let Steve finish his Rockette story.
Yeah, they
Come
met
on.
the animatronics at Chuck E. Cheese. They were more excited than meeting you, buddy.
Well, I do
All right?
love the Rockettes, and I was only picking on Steve because
Well-
he always picks on me.
All
but
right, well-
my
Was it a
friend's
good-
wife, Steve, is married to a Rockette.
I'm going
so I don't
to-
want to disrespect the Rockettes.
Well,
My
it was
wife bought.
ex-
I'm going actually. So was it good?
It's great. John, you're advanced, not like the cretin I'm sitting next to, but it's a lot more technologically updated. They kept a lot of the old.
Does the
like
reindeer
March
still
of the
roll its
Wooden
eyes
Shoulders,
when they go under the
Shoulders.
wooden
Shoulders?
soldiers? All right,
Soldiers.
wooden
Shoulders?
soldiers. All right, and they have a
put a
lot
stop to
of
this.
They give you 3D glasses, and I did put on the 3D glasses.
Aren't all glasses 3D?
I don't know, but it made for a really cool experience. It was a great show.
Where were your seats?
I think you should do your act in 3D.
I actually
Groupon. My wife bought the tickets on Groupon.
Oh, so
I actually felt bad that some of the Rockettes were checking me out during the show. I distracted them.
Well, you
Even
know
at-
you're a big TV star.
Even at this advanced stage, I was distracted.
Yeah, they said they saw you in
Steve, you gotta
Backdraft.
know that.
I have to go
going
the
in,
day
man.
before
Well, let me tell you
Thanksgiving.
something. The way they could kick, they should be MMA fighters because they could. Boom.
And send our regards to
Precision.
Mrs. Oliva. We hope she's doing well.
My mom's doing great.
you know,
Oh, thank you.
and we also want to say hope.
My
Butch-
mom
Butch
hasn't
is
been Mrs.
doing well.
Oliva since
Oh, yeah,
89.
Butch.
I hope that Butch
Oh,
is
yeah,
doing
Butch.
well.
All
Well, he
the
was
best to
commenting on one of the Facebook
Oh,
things,
well,
so
then
he
he's
must
doing
be,
fine.
he must be doing fine.
Anybody doing social media?
Butch. I got him on it here.
Do you know how to do anything? What are you, the boss?
Right.
What are you?
Right.
Who died and made you boss?
There's no real
There
comment.
was
Boss,
a hit.
it's called
There was a hit,
organization.
and now-
Yeah, that's why we got you sitting in the corner over there.
John
so you can watch
actually
us.
said, "Get well, Butch Seltzer." He didn't want us to forget.
Who said that?
Well,
Who else?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
you know,
why
that's
I did it. Now
here's the
you
thing
get-
about
Oh, you
text.
saw it too?
I just did it.
Oh,
Here's the thing about texts and messages and everything. Butch just
we
had
just-
like 3 or 4 arteries unclogged.
yes.
You know, do you
Well,
think
we
that-
were going to do
Do
it.
you
I
think
have it
that
written
get
here.
well from John has any effect on his
I think it
on
does.
his medical status?
I think it does.
It does.
Well,
Yeah.
we wish,
So let's
let's
check that off
wish
our
him a
box.
speedy recovery. We
Yes.
hope he's
Yeah.
doing all right.
No,
And
Butchie-
if we need, we
Is
will get
Butch a veteran,
MCN
by
duck
the way?
cleaning.
Does anybody know Butch is not a veteran?
MCN duck cleaning may
Why,
be
it makes a
sent
difference
out
if he's a
to
veteran?
Butch to clean out his ducks if he needs it.
There you go.
Listen, Butch,
very
if you're
good.
watching at home, we're thinking about you, brother.
We're
Yeah.
thinking about you.
All
and,
jokes
We're
aside.
glad you're okay. And get well soon.
Okay.
And I
right.
just hope it wasn't the meatballs.
Oh my God! I didn't even
Or the
think
pizza.
of that. It could have been the
Could've been the
meatballs
salad.
or the salad.
A lot of cheese in that salad.
Yeah, he put a
I
lot
actually
of
was
cheese.
throwing your meatballs at the Rockettes, and they were kicking them.
Oh my God! Could you
They were
imagine?
kicking them into the mezzanine.
Could you imagine if the gala
Mezzanine?
gave Butch a heart attack?
Well,
I don't go to theater. I don't go to theater
I
a
thought
lot.
the
all
gala
right?
was going to give John a
I
heart
don't go
attack,
to
not
theater a
Butch.
lot.
Shea Stadium is at the mezzanine.
All right, I don't go to theater a lot. All right, Shakespeare.
Mausoleum?
When you trying to make it like an Italian restaurant,
Ah,
the
come
mezzanine.
on. Don't do Bronx Tale the musical. They need a tap dancer.
So
they
how
need a
was your week,
250-pound
Frank?
tap dancer.
so
Now, Frank, you've been off the show for a long time.
I've been
Tell
off
us
for a little
what.
while. I was
Tell us why.
filming a movie, independent film called Family Obligations. It'll be out next year. So I was a little preoccupied with that.
Well, we're glad you're back on the
Thank
show.
you.
And what was your role in it?
I was one of the
An
leads.
Undertaker?
I was playing.
Lead.
Yes. The character's name was Frank, so I was playing Uncle Frank. And
That's awesome. They,
I
don't,
am,
they,
I
they
didn't
can't
have to, I didn't
forget
have
your
to worry
name.
about
Yeah.
forgetting my who
Well, they
I
were a
was.
little
Continuity
nervous.
is easy.
So yeah, well, they should have been a little nervous.
I had an Uncle Frank I was nervous around when I was a kid.
Right. As well you should. So so that'll be out after the new year. It'll be in the film festivals.
Nice. What, are they going to release it in Netflix too after, or are they going to
They're looking to get it. I don't know exactly how it works once it gets into distribution, but they said it'll be on some of the streaming services
Nice,
as well.
nice.
Oh, cool. Is it a feature film?
It is a feature. It's about an hour and a half.
Wow.
So
Wow,
I don't know how
cool.
much.
I saw some of the
that's what-
pictures on Facebook. Looked like you were having a
It
good
looked
time.
great.
Had a
yeah.
good time. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Good people.
And that's the main thing. You had fun doing it, right?
Absolutely. It
All
was,
right.
in
Yeah,
the
take
garage
it from John.
productions.
He tell you, hey, listen to him.
That's important.
Yeah.
No, that's
The
important.
director was.
And if it makes a
The
couple
director's
of hundred,
name was Kenneth Frank. His last name was Frank. So.
Oh,
so
and
it
you had
was,
fun doing it, if it makes a couple of $100 million, so much the better.
All the more for them. Yeah.
All the more. Why, you wouldn't get a piece of that?
I don't think so.
What about the merchandising?
Merchandising the Uncle Frank doll.
The Uncle Frank, your character.
Right.
That's the thing. It
with the
sucks when
hat.
it's just
you
your
know, by
character.
the way, my in-laws gave me that hat like 5 years ago for Christmas. That's got to be John. For Christmas, I never wore it. I said I wore that hat more in a
looked
week
good.
than
It
I did
fit. It
since
fit
I
the
had
part.
It did.
Did you get to keep it at the end?
It was my hat.
Oh, your hat. Okay.
It'll go into the Smithsonian next to Fonzie's jacket
And Archie Bunker's chair.
and Archie Bunker's chair. Right.
And Edith's girdle. What?
John
Paul.
said an hour and 25 minutes is too long for that movie with you in it.
Why is that
It
so long?
might be.
That's about a
He was
normal
making-
movie
he
length.
was making
He was making a bad joke.
That's why I didn't even get that.
Where is John again?
Atlanta.
Alabama. Oh, Atlanta.
Is there a hurricane going through Atlanta?
No hurricane. No hurricane.
So,
Are you an alarmist now? You guys, we gotta have
So how about your week?
organization here.
So my week was so I have like a little thing up. It ties into my segment. Should I do the segment now? or
Do the
should we-
segment
do
now.
the segment now.
Segment away.
So I posted
Segue.
a thing about a firefighting tank. You know, we're hoping that California. Wish all the best for California. But there's a. Could you guys bring up not this picture with the tanks, but the picture of the plane dropping the right that one? Perfect. So I put up this picture yesterday, I think, showing a 747.
That's a big plane to be doing that crop dusting.
It's a 747, which is a very large passenger
Yeah.
aircraft, holds 300-400 people. And I always said, you know, why don't you get a 747, fill it with, you know, pressurized water,
Yeah.
and use that. So Evergreen, which is a cargo airline, just keep that picture up for a second. It can dump 20,000 gallons of fire retardant in like 6 seconds.
which is what that is.
Which is what that is. That's I think the
So
chemical.
are they dropping water on that, John, or is it a chemical?
It could be either or, whatever the conditions require. So,
Because
can you
that's
show the
what it looks
picture of the
like
tanks?
after I eat the fish on
the
a plane.
the interior of the.
when they have to drop the tank.
I'm going to say it again.
So it holds the water and the whatever the retardant is in these tanks. You can put that picture up with the tank.
What does it say on it? Rupture?
There's something about rupture or whatever, but this is so the 747 is a 3-deck aircraft. The pilots are on the upper deck, so they have the lower deck cargo hold in the middle of the aircraft filled with this with these tanks that can drop that retardant. So it can make a 3-mile long drop 150 feet wide. Unfortunately, there's only one of these aircraft. Okay, so what I was saying was they need to figure out a way with the federal government, the state governments, and other countries. It's gone to Chile, it's gone to Israel, it's gone all over the world putting out these large fires. Could you put up the picture of the planes in the desert? So I said they got to figure out a way to get more of these airplanes. There are tons of airplanes, 747s like this, just sitting in desert storage that, you know, this isn't an airplane that's going to have a lot of flight time. It's an airplane that's going to, you know, it's not going to be in service like an airliner is. So as a 747 gets to, you know, the end of its useful life, could you outfit some of them, retrofit them to this tanker mission, so that you could get, you know, you have a large fire like what's going on out there, you fly 5 of them, you know, one after the other, and it takes 30 minutes to resupply the retardant. plus to refuel the aircraft
That's
and
a
the
pretty
flight
quick
and the
turnover.
flight. Well, you also have flight time to and
Yeah.
from. You need an 8,000-foot runway. You may not have an 8,000-foot runway close enough, but far enough away from the impact area. So it might have to fly whatever. But it's a 747. It can fly 400 miles an hour, 500 miles an hour.
Well, okay. So you see, I usually see. I was surprised when I saw the size of that plane.
It's gigantic.
It's gigantic. I didn't know that. For the maneuverability, and for the conditions.
Well, you just fly it.
Right?
You just fly it in a line.
And
Steve, it just flies in a line and just dumps the water. You can still use the helicopters and the smaller aircraft that are more maneuverable to get into like the side of a mountain. Like they do these complicated and more dangerous drops. But for the main fire area, this wide area, you just have a couple of these things flying in formation.
why
and
wouldn't
just
they
dump the
use,
water.
let's say, a C-1 airplane? Those huge.
They
transport?
do, but they don't. But nothing is going to carry that much water at one time.
Isn't a C-1 bigger than
A
What, you talking about
C5?
the big
the
cargo?
transport?
Oh, the C5?
The cargo planes.
Yeah, I mean, you could outfit C5s for this. Yeah, absolutely. Use a C5 too. I mean, that might hold a few thousand more gallons, maybe. Even the C-17 is way maneuverable, but they're not going to be maneuverable with all that water weight on it. That's the problem.
Could
They're
they
not-
just
it's
have
not gonna
Pat
fly
Marone
as-
over the top and empty his bladder?
That would put it
help?
out.
That might help.
So the point being is that for like you still would use those other airplanes on where they
sorry,
would need
Mom.
it, but this could provide a
I
lot
think you're
of
better off having Patty
water
G after
at
a
one
set.
time.
Yeah.
And that's what they need. So maybe there's a way to share the cost. If the airplane goes to a certain area, that state or that the Forestry Service picks up part of it, the state, whatever. The insurance companies, because I mean they're taking billions in losses and as it is, so they can help protect life and property a lot better with airplanes
Because
like
those
this.
helicopters, I mean, obviously they're doing a great job in those conditions.
They
but
are in certain places,
Those
but
baskets don't seem like to carry
But
that
they only
much.
carry a few hundred gallons, and they got to go. They got to fill it up. This would provide if you had a bunch of airplanes at once. One goes in, drops. One goes in, drops. By the time the first one, the last one goes over, the first one might be almost on its way back with a
Sure,
fresh load
yeah,
of water.
yeah.
So you could really provide a lot, 100,000 gallons, let's say, in a short span of time. I think that would be way more effective than a helicopter doing drop
Well,
here,
if
drop
anyone
there.
is listening or watching from California and is near that area,
Probably got a lot of people watching.
yeah,
The videos are heartbreaking when you see
let
these
us
people driving through it.
shoot
It's
us
terrible.
a call in maybe, or even shoot us a message on Facebook and let us know what it's like.
This is the record number of people of perished this year.
Terrible.
So far.
And I saw a
44
woman
of them.
drive through it, and she's
Yeah.
crying the whole time, praying. I mean, she drove through it, and I couldn't believe the speed at which the fire was moving. It was, one of those Facebook
It's just-
videos where you
it's
watch a
just
video,
amazing
the other one comes up.
But I'm a firefighter. I used to be a firefighter. But why do they? I don't understand the term
What?
campfire. Campfire, they're calling it. Why do they call it a
Oh,
campfire?
that's probably it.
No, they call it a forest fire.
No, they've been calling it like
Campfire?
a campfire. Yeah.
I
I don't understand the term.
But
I don't know,
so
it's
somebody
horrible,
on
whatever it
Facebook
is.
said that I was
Johnny
anti-California
LaRocchia.
by posting
Yep.
that. And I'm like, how am I anti-California? I'm saying that
Why do you listen to people on
Why do you
Facebook?
listen
because
to
they're,
Facebook?
yeah, they're
You
idiots.
there?
Bunch of idiots.
Hang on, caller. Who's there?
It's John. It's John.
Oh, we were
Wait-
waiting for your
we're waiting
father.
for your
Can you hang
father.
up? He's probably trying to call
Yeah,
in.
hang up.
I'm trying to bring him in on merging. Hold on.
Oh, you know what?
It's never going to work. You hung
Forget
up
it.
on me.
You're going to hang up on him.
Hold on.
Will you pay the Domino's guy and grab the phone and
That
speak
plane
properly?
I was watching the news, John. It's dropping chemicals ahead of the fire.
Yeah, you could also cool down an area
that's a
before
tech-
it gets there, right?
Well, it's not necessarily cooling down the area. It's dropping so the area won't burn. You know
That's
what I
what I'm
mean? It's
saying,
dropping
right.
chemicals
It
that's
prevented,
fire
right.
retardant.
That's
Preventing it
because
from spreading.
Thanks,
containment.
Sean.
a lot of what they do is, I think, a vast
in from
is
Atlanta.
defensive
It's very
firefighting
defensive,
there.
yeah, because it's
So that's
not
why they
contained.
burn areas ahead of the fire, just to salvage
Fight fire with
anything.
fire?
Trench type operation.
But more of these
Gentlemen,
airplanes, I'm saying, would
gentlemen.
be better, whether it's the Dowson area
Now
that's
listen to me.
not affected.
Gentlemen, you there?
Hi, John LaRocchi's on the line.
Okay, I think we have two John LaRocchies on the line. One Giovanni, one John. Let me see.
Oh, lefty and righty. All right.
Giovanni!
Giovanni, how are
Mr.
you?
LaRocchia. All right, John, you
LaRocchia,
can
what-
hang up now. We just don't talk.
He's on.
No, I like to have both of them on. They can bicker back and forth.
I was holding on, and it's rough holding on when you got a small hold on.
Happy
That's all right.
Veterans Day,
Happy
Mr.
Veterans
LaRocchia.
Day.
Yeah, happy Veterans
Yes.
Day, Mr. LaRocchia.
How you doing, pal?
How are you?
He said Happy Veterans Day, Dad.
You know, I'm sorry. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm very proud of being a veteran.
I know.
Dad was over in
So-
Dad
so-
was over in Germany for
Mr.
how long?
LaRocca,
Dad was
tell
in
us,
Germany?
where-
I was in Berlin, Germany, about 18 months. You know, yeah. And what I really was proud of it. You know, some of these veterans went through combat and everything like that, and I was not guilty. I was happy to see combat, but I was in a bad area, surrounded by 16 divisions of Russians in a dangerous zone, and I'm proud of that because if anything happened, we were gone. You know, so some of these veterans have really been through combat, and the only way I can feel it is when I was on maneuvers in Berlin, Germany in January, freezing like anything. The eggs were frozen, and I said to myself, how could these guys fight in this kind of weather? So you got to give it to those guys that fought in combat.
Yes,
I'm proud to be a veteran. I served 2 years, and I'm happy for that. But these guys that went through combat, every time I see them, I shake their hand, you know.
Now, did you enlist or you were in the service?
Pardon me?
He asked you, did you enlist? Did you volunteer? And why?
No, I joined the Army. Yes, I joined.
Okay.
I joined the Army and because, okay, I was going to go in anyhow, but I figured I might as well go in and get it over with. And I consider myself a pretty lucky veteran where I was. I got 2 combinations. I was in danger, but I wasn't in combat. Although we had maneuvers, and it was 2 times there, which I never wrote home where I could have got killed in maneuvers, you know. When you're around weapons and everything, there's always accidents, you know. So, yeah, I almost got clobbered 2 times, and I'm proud of serving, you know.
Oh, we're proud of you.
We're proud of you, too.
They train and they're together, and when they go in combat and your buddy gets killed, I mean, you never get over that, you know. So when you see a veteran or a fireman or a policeman, you go up and congratulate them, you know.
Or a chef,
Thank
or
you.
a chef, or a chef.
Yeah.
Chef, we usually throw stuff at
Data entry, not
Depends
so
how
much.
dinner was.
No, not so much.
Sorry.
Data analysis.
Right.
But
Do you now when you went over, Dad, you went over on a big boat, right?
Or a
Oh,
ship.
God. You know,
What was that
I
like?
was seasick for 4 days. A troop ship, United States upshore. Never forget that. You know, weird things happen.
Upchuck, United States Upchuck.
What?
They should have called it the United States Upchuck.
it was a bad joke, Mr. Giovanni.
yeah. They put me in
That's funny.
guard
See, my
duty.
dad liked it.
What did he say?
Can you have a flashback and throw him into a foxhole?
Crying out loud. The Army had a funny sense of humor, I'll tell you right now. Yeah. A funny thing happened to me. They forgot me for 3 weeks. I was in a trench hole, in a foxhole. I had to get out of there. The fox looked so good to me, so I had to get out of there. That's a little, you know, joke.
Steve, the foxholes. Did you do some research on foxholes? You said or something? Or was
I
that
did,
Yes,
yes.
he's going to do that.
Do we know
later.
why it's called a foxhole? We have that, right?
Find out.
We're gonna find
Do
out.
that yet later.
Yeah, but
Don't rush the show.
yeah, you know what? It's a shame. People don't appreciate. And I'm sorry, I'm a veteran, and I think they put the bill through. I'm not sure. A veteran should be able to go right to a hospital and take care of them. You know.
I agree with you.
I went to the hospitals in St. Albans, and I was telling Josie, if you just get a smile at them. But one comedian did a good trick. He told one of those guys to tell a joke, and he got a big kick out of it. And I get a big kick going there, you know.
Pat did a nice job on Sunday. He ran the show for me over there. Every one of those guys have been to the Veterans Hospital, and it's a little thing we do. It's tiny, it's little, but it matters to those guys. It really matters to those guys.
It does.
Pat
They
did a
do.
great job.
It does.
I was told the other day he really did a great job.
Thank you.
Good for them. Yeah. That's about it. You know, you gotta think of a veteran with your heart. You know what they went through, and you know what? The Vietnam vets had a raw deal when they came home. You know, they were spitting on them because they killed kids, but they didn't realize these kids had bombs on them. bombs, so they had to kill him. You know.
Yeah.
It's not easy. So anyway, Giovanni called in. That was very nice of you to call in tonight.
Well,
Thank you, Mr.
very
LaRocchia.
Veteran.
We
These
appreciate
guys
you
are
very
Thanks,
much.
Mr.
gonna
LaRocchia.
Continue with the show. They have a lot of good stuff coming up.
We're very proud of you, Mr.
And
LaRocchia.
I think on hay or something. So let's watch and see what they have to say.
Okay.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Take care,
All right,
guys.
take care.
Thanks for calling in.
All right.
Thanks, Mr. Roki.
Bye.
All right. So,
Now speaking of World War II,
yes.
the Sullivan Brothers, it's their anniversary of, the anniversary.
Today, right?
The ship went down and
well,
76 years ago.
Explain
Tell-
what.
well,
Explain about the
yeah,
Sullivan Brothers.
well,
A lot of
background.
people may
Sullivan
not know
Brothers
that.
were five brothers. The Fighting Sullivans is a movie out. The Fighting Sullivans. The Sullivan Brothers are five brothers who did everything together. They did, as growing up as kids, they did everything together. And one of the brothers, the youngest brother, got married. He was the only one that got married, and he had a baby. And when D-Day, when the Japs attacked Pearl Harbor, they were all going to enlist in the Navy because they wanted to be in the Navy, and there were only four of them were going to go because he just had the baby, and the wife of the youngest that had the baby with him, she says, "You do everything with your brothers, just go with them."
Oh.
And they all enlisted in, but there was a little bit of a glitch in it in the beginning because when they went in, they said, "We go into the Navy all together on the same ship, but we don't go at all." And the guy was saying, "We can't do that." We said, and they walked out. And they wrote to him, and then all of a sudden they got the accommodation to have all five brothers on the same ship. And then when they got the missiles hit them on the submarine,
Torpedoes.
They were torpedoed.
torpedoes, I'm sorry,
Okay.
the torpedoes, the one brother was already injured, and they were told to get off the ship, to jump off the ship. They weren't leaving until they got their brother down. He was in the medic area, and they went down there, and they never made it out. So 76 years ago today, to the date, is this happened. And two ships were named after him, the Sullivans. Both were named the Sullivans, and there was a DD-8. There was different numbers at the end. I don't remember off my head. And one of them is in Buffalo as a museum, like the Intrepid, and one is there still. Intrepid. Thank you for correcting me, Steve. And one of them is still in action now.
Now, isn't there like a military rule that family can't
Now there
serve?
is, yeah.
No, but I just read on it, and I thought it was the Sullivan, but that's a different thing with the guns. But no president ever took an executive order to mandate that. I think it's not. I think it's a non-written rule.
Is it a DOD rule? It could be a DOD rule.
It might be,
It's
yeah, but
probably
it's
one
not
of those unenforced rules.
It's an
you know.
right,
okay.
yeah. But it was pretty wild because the kid. Now he has his kid. His kid must be at least 70-something years old if he's still alive.
Sure.
And
Right.
and the wife was like, go. It was. If you watch the movie, it's a must-see movie. I watched it when I was a kid, and I watched it again.
Where is what is it on?
It's
Probably
it
on
was
Turner-
on. It was on TMC, but I don't know if it's on TMC on
Turner
demand.
Classics?
Turner
Turner
Classics.
Classics.
maybe.
And
What's it
the,
called? The Fighting Sullivan?
Fighting
The
Sullivan.
ship that they
That
were
run
on,
TMC? No, it's TCM. Right?
the
Oh,
USS,
TCM, yeah.
That's run TMC.
the USS Juno that the Sullivans
Right,
were
the
on was
USS
just discovered in
Yeah.
March of this year. They found the shipwreck.
Yeah.
What kind of ship was it? Not the,
I think it was a cruiser or a destroyer they were on. If I didn't research all that much, but I know they discovered the remains of the ship.
I'm
And-
wondering if that unwritten rule, the Sullivan Rule, if you want to call it, applies, I should know this, but applies to police department, fire departments, in the
I'm
world.
sure it does.
I mean, I know we
think it
never,
does,
never
but-
had brothers in the same house. I don't know about the police department.
I don't recall. We did have sisters. One was a sergeant. One was
in the same house?
But they
In the
weren't
same precinct?
Technically, they weren't supposed to be because then the sergeant would show favoritism.
Right.
But really, I don't think two family members are supposed to be in. Husbands and wives aren't supposed to be in the
Yeah,
same
but in
command.
On 9/11,
in Blue Bloods, I know
it
it's Blue
was
Bloods.
probably people that were the two brothers, the chiefs, but you're in different units, but you're all going to the same
That was a
incident.
Well, that's
That was
that's
a
a
different-
Totally different.
That's
No,
Totally
that's
different.
different.
incident.
In Blue Bloods, they had the thing with the wife and the girlfriend and the
Right.
boy, they're going to get married, and they didn't want it to happen, but they
Oh,
read
yeah.
they read it in the thing that there was not a written rule in
There
there.
may not be. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It was-
It
It should be a written rule, but it is, I don't think it is.
Well, whose microphone is making noise?
I don't know.
Not Patty G.
All right, now we're all playing with our
Guys,
mics.
The levers. You know what? Turn off
So-
the mic.
I'm not moving it.
It's not mine. It's Pat Marone.
Pat's moving his mic
I'm moving
now.
it.
It's your mic.
All
Oh,
right.
it isn't.
Okay.
It's my
Good.
mic because I'm moving it. So
Anyway,
listen,
so-
speaking of aircraft carriers, Frank's
Right.
father and my father, tell the story. Is it
Well,
weird?
it was a weird story. My dad, we were doing the gala last year at the military museum, and we were all there. My wife was there. Pat was walking, and Kathy, my wife, said to Pat, "Did your dad serve in the military?" Or I mean, she may have asked if you served in the military as well, and Pat said no. My dad, he said he didn't, but he said my dad served on the Intrepid. So I spun around and I said, "Your dad served on the Intrepid?" I said, "So did mine." I said, "I've never met anyone else who could tell me that their father served on the Intrepid." So we were talking about when they served, and it seems that they served at the same time
Right.
during the Korean conflict. So we just thought it was odd that after all these years,
Right. And then,
finding someone else whose father served on the
Now,
ship.
did the Intrepid have the angled deck then, or the straight deck? Because it was
It had the
converted.
straight
Don't
deck
you
back
feel
Straight
a little
deck.
inadequate? They served on a big ship, fighting, and you guys
All
are
right. Well,
slinging
first
out.
off,
You,
let's go back to the fighting part, and I'm very happy that our fathers got to spend the Korean conflict in Italy.
Italy. That's why
Okay.
it's so weird because they definitely. Because
So-
my father spent it in Italy too.
Right.
50 years later, you're slinging out one-liners on a Facebook
And
show.
now I'm slinging out one-liners on a Facebook show.
Wait, why were they in Italy?
The Great Generation.
Because here's what happened.
He'll tell you,
It was Atlantic Fleet? Or what
No,
was it?
well, I don't know all that part of it, but in 1952 they were upgrading the ship, so it was being upgraded with a new telephone system. So I guess they didn't dry dock it for that, but they were out in Korea. So when you look at the history of where the ship served, obviously World War II and Vietnam, they don't really mention the Korean conflict because it was over in Italy.
And the reason why I know it was in Italy because my father visited relatives of ours that I never met that live in Italy. So there's Maroons in Italy and Naples. They were in Naples.
Right.
And then he said, "Yeah." I said, "Where was the ship?" And he said, I said, "They were definitely." in
I
the
saw
same ship."
ships in
Yeah.
Naples when I was in Naples. It's
So-
still an active port, sure.
Yeah.
Now,
My dad was a Marine in Korean War.
all right, we'll get to that. But one of the now, it would be nice to be able to confirm that they're on the ship together, but I'm quite sure. But I always laughed because my dad didn't talk too much about it. But I said, "Dad, what was your job on the ship?" And he goes, "I was communications." I said, "Really? What do you mean?" He said, "I was the ship's mailman, communications."
Yeah.
So, but he said on the aircraft carrier, you didn't go around delivering the mail. Everyone came to
Right,
them.
right.
So there's more of a chance that your
Yeah.
dad would have remembered my dad from.
Well, my father was in the brig.
Okay,
a lot of time for fighting.
so he
He was
probably
in the
didn't get
brig.
any mail.
Tough piece of work.
He was in the brig for fighting.
So there's a good chance he didn't get any mail. So I just thought that was just kind of interesting that they served together.
Well, you heroic because I'll say that because anytime you leave home, regardless of what your position is, your mailman, a war seems to me not just fighting. You have so many things to do other than
Yes.
than fight that have to support a wartime.
Right,
So-
and that's kind of the history of the ship. Just a couple of quick facts. The Intrepid was launched in 1943.
Yeah, no.
It was launched in 1943, and it was hit by 5 kamikazes and a torpedo. So
It was built after Pearl Harbor, too, right, I believe?
I don't know when it was
the
built.
keel
but
was,
the-
I think, laid down
But
right
then-
before, right after. But, yeah.
But then when you say like being part of support and stuff like that, in the 60s it was part of the, it worked with NASA picking up the astronauts for the Mercury missions, but it also then was sent back over to Vietnam. And then in 1974,
This is the aircraft carrier?
this is the aircraft
What was the
carrier,
name of it again?
the Intrepid.
I apologize. This
They
is the
picked up
Intrepid.
Scott
Yeah, they were
Carpenter,
both in
yeah.
the Intrepid.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
they
I've
picked
been-
up-
I've
yeah,
been there
Picked
once.
up
Wow.
Picked
and
up
Gus
Scott
Grissom
Carp
in Gemini 3, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is exactly right. In 1974, it was decommissioned. They were going to scrap it, and
Yeah.
a real estate investor and some other people got together and they made it into the museum.
Museum, yeah.
And they also have a lunar module there because the Apollo 12's lunar module was the Intrepid.
Yes.
I
So-
never was on it. My father was on it with my cousins. And so he got to go on it after all those years. I think Frankie said his father was on it, but not with him either. It's ironic.
Right.
But when he was on it, they didn't have the bottom deck where they bunked
Right.
open.
Right.
And Frank's father, same thing. So my father never got to see. Now they have it open.
I
when
think
they
it's
show the
open
bar-
now, yeah.
Yeah, now it's open.
Now it's open,
So
yes.
it's like I feel bad. Like my father died at 64.
You
He
can-
could have went down there.
So what's interesting about the Intrepid, because I was in San Francisco and I was on the Hornet, which the Intrepid is number 11, the Hornet's
Yes.
number 12. So they were both Essex class carriers.
It's,
And-
but down the road, it was changed over to a different class.
Right.
It started out as an Essex.
Essex, and then they converted with all the modifications. But the Hornet, they told me that they made a decision to not turn it into like an aerospace, like with heavy modifications, a total aerospace museum. It was an aircraft carrier museum. The only aircraft they allow on their ship are ones that served on that ship, except for the F-18 Hornet, which never flew off the Hornet, but because it had the Hornet moniker, because the Hornet was so successful, sank more ships and everything else, they never will name another ship Hornet. That's why the Hornet was they named the F-18 Hornet to continue the name.
You know,
But that's the only exception they made. Otherwise, all the aircraft that are on the Hornet in California are served on Essex class carrier or flew off of Essex class.
that was an aircraft carrier.
Yeah, it was a
the
sister ship to
subs-
the Intrepid.
The subs, as far as the subs go.
And it's more like it really was. Like they didn't make all those modifications. Like you could see the bunks, you could see
Like
the
classic,
admirals,
yeah.
and this combat information center. You could see all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of people go through there, and I saw the movies in the movie theater they have there. The veterans talking about it. Pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, they
You know?
call it CIC. So if you ever watch a movie like Humphrey October, when he goes, "We'll be in CIC in the morning." That's combat. That's the most sensitive part of the ship, other than like the top secret intelligence gathering parts, the skiffs. But other than that, that is like the nerve center of the ship, because that's where they can see all the incoming aircraft, all the surface threats. They get data links from all the other aircraft that are patrolling near the carrier group. Because if you sink the carrier, there's only 11 carriers now. You sink an aircraft carrier, that's a gigantic loss to American air power.
Which was what the Japanese thought if they during
They were
the
trying to
attack, if
that-
they could wipe out they didn't expect us to be able to rebuild
Yep.
those ships and get them going again. So
That's why they're obsessed with anti-submarine detection and warfare, and they have helicopters dropping buoys, and they have all kinds of other aircraft that support the carrier battle group, because they have to protect those ships from
Well, I
submarines.
mean, as far as the subs go, like when my dad got home from the service, he served a meatball sub to Dion from Dion and the Belmonts. So, as far as the subs go,
Next.
Do you know? You always say it every week.
What?
Our commercial for.
Oh,
Matt-
yes.
For Matt.
See you.
Can you?
we got our sponsor.
Our sponsor, our huge sponsor, is, I'm going to do it in Schwarzenegger's voice this
Okay.
week, is MC and Duck Cleaning. They're fantastic. They clean out all of the ducks and all of the dirt and all of those things like that. And Matt is fantastic.
Oh, we got a
MC
picture of him.
We have a picture right there with the phone number. It's great.
Okay,
That's
cool.
the phone number, 631-885-5736. And you do all of your HVAC systems and things like this. You love it. You have to go there. You don't want to breathe all that crap.
And Matt's a great guy. Give him a call.
And he loved it when we did it at the gala as Trump.
Yes.
Yes.
He loved it.
Matt's from the island. He services all Long Island and other parts of the state, obviously. And he's a local guy with a great business. Been doing it for a number of years. And,
Yeah.
I don't have ducks in my house, but I'm thinking about getting ducks put in just so I can have Mac come and
All you restaurant owners out there that are watching,
clean
have
those
them clean your
ducks.
ducks. It's
Listen,
very important
you
to get
gotta
done.
you should have it cleaned
Even
out.
air-conditioned ducks are very
Because
important. Yeah.
you realize, that picks up everything, dead skin cells and everything. So like when you buy a new house, if you're buying a house and you move in, the first thing you should do is get
I'm
your
leaving.
ducts cleaned out.
Absolutely.
Because you're only breathing in the people that live
There's-
there.
it's-
I don't like that.
People really don't realize that they should clean their ducts and their air conditioning. A lot of people just don't do it. They just neglect it. And
They're
there's a lot
animals.
of condensation. There's a lot of mold in it.
Right.
As a firefighter,
Yeah.
It's gross.
I was at numerous duck fires in restaurants.
Yeah.
Because they didn't clean the
traps.
grease.
Right. Yes.
And
No, just the duct.
I mean, not the trap. I meant
that
to say
stuff.
the grease.
That stuff goes. It's,
Yeah.
it's. I'm sure we had a
Now
hard
they
time
have the
putting it out.
Halon systems.
yeah,
Oh, they're not using
But
that
it's-
anymore.
they
right?
never went off.
But it's very important to get your ducts clean and give Matt a call, and he'll take care of it for you.
Clean them up.
Clean them up. And Steve, leave it to Aliva has a nice segment tonight on Foxholes.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Just make sure
everyone-
you pronounce the words right.
Okay, I'm going to do my best. A lot of veterans related topic. topics with the military, and John LaRocchi's dad, Giovanni, mentioned a foxhole before. So I did some research to talk this evening about foxholes. Foxholes, it's considered it's a fighting position. Now, I read something interesting about it is on a message board. One of the Marines was saying, no, it's not a defensive position, which sometimes it's called. It's a fighting position. Marines don't defend, we fight. So I thought that was kind of cool. There's a few different labels, names for foxholes. Sometimes they call them shell scrapes. Sometimes they call them, in Australia, they call them gun pits. The Brits call them trenches. Marines call them fighting holes is another one. So a lot of people, myself included, since I did some research on this, don't separate a foxhole from a trench. Now, a foxhole is dug in about I think they say it has to be at least as deep as to about the shoulders. Now, all you Marines and you military guys may call in and say, Steve, you're wrong, but from what I read, it comes up to about the shoulders, so the Marines or the Army or the riflemen can fire their guns. It also has to be a certain width, so they can move the width of the rifle and turn around if needed, or jockey as they fight.
Why is it called a foxhole?
Well, there's a few different theories on that. It looks like there was some in the American Civil War. They call them rifle pits. Okay, so they go back a long way. Why it's called a foxhole? The Germans, they noticed in World War I, some of the intelligence, because we didn't use foxholes in World War I. Okay, they were employed by the Americans substantially, it seems, in World War II. World War I was a lot more trenches dug. That seems to be what was used.
Long trenches.
Long trenches, highly involved,
Yeah.
highly structured, almost maze-like. That was done on both sides.
Yep. I saw that in the Wonder Woman movie.
They picked up something from the Germans who were using these. There was a name, and I apologize because it was started with an F, and essentially they said that the German term translated into foxholes. They were even referred to as spider holes.
Maybe it was
somewhere along the way.
foxholes.
It was Frenchloing. There was something like that. I'm probably massacring the name, which I know I am.
Wiener Schnitzel.
But
Pfannkuchen?
it seemed that the Germans employed those type of fighting positions, and the Americans didn't use them in World War I, used them in World War II. Now, after the Battle of Kasserine Pass in 1943, the foxhole was employed in World War II. So an interesting fact about foxholes, it's just a fighting position, right? But they dug it down, they steeped it down, and they had something called a grenade sump, or a sump. It's where it starts shallow and it's enlarged back. And the reason is this, in these foxholes, is if a grenade was thrown in, right, you could kick it into this grenade sump to smother any explosive, because it wasn't a big, elongated,
Right.
what you would consider like a trench. It was not that. It was for two men to keep an eye on each other and to fight with each other, and it went up to their shoulders. Okay. So the dirt that came out of it was either put into sandbags if they had them, and if not, it was put around them to protect them. Now, one thing I found interesting is when the dirt was put out, it had to be specifically packed. It couldn't just be dumped. It said that a bullet can get through 30 inches of unpacked sand, so it had to be specifically packed properly around the foxhole for them to defend against incoming bullets and enemy fire. So another thing that the way they built it up is they would camouflage it, which I'm sure they did in Vietnam. But another interesting fact is you want vegetation around it to camouflage it, but not too much. Why would you think that is? Not too much vegetation.
It would obstruct your view,
Well, I
wouldn't
think it would
it?
obstruct your view.
I would say.
Bugs.
Well, I guess in Vietnam, bugs was a huge issue in the jungle.
So why is it?
They didn't want to trap grenades, they said, or mortars. They didn't want to trap them in the vegetation.
Oh, right.
So they would have just a certain amount. There was a way to do it. And then with the foxholes, they could, as they went, they could build them up. They could extend them, maybe reinforce them if they had the time. But
Right.
basically, it was just me and you standing there, and we're able to fight from it, and with two men. So used in World War II, not to be confused with the trenches that were employed in World War I extensively, which were very elaborate fighting
All right,
I think
that's leave it to a lever.
Leave it to a lever.
All right, that's great.
Now we have one of
got
Pat G's
Patty
wonderful
G,
segments.
bringing it home.
Patty G.
Okay, guys.
Take us to the finish
Talking about
line.
poppy bagels.
No, we're not. Guys, tonight on Patty G's, gee, I didn't know that. We're going to be rather a little serious tonight in deference to
I haven't
Veterans
seen you
Day.
not serious yet.
Well, you guys usually do the comedy.
That's true.
Tonight, guys, we're going to
You should
talk
leave it to the
about
professionals.
You should try.
how the symbol of the poppy flower,
The poppy.
The poppy.
the poppy, came to symbolize veterans. Okay. In the southwestern part of Belgium is the county of Flanders. Okay. It's bordered by
Flanders?
Netherlands, France, Germany. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Netherlands, France, Germany, and Luxembourg. Okay. Flanders is known for vast fields. Okay.
Great in that cartoon, also.
All right.
The
Now,
Simpsons, yes.
Flanders was the scene of major battles throughout World War I. To show you
Him and Marge too.
to show
Sorry,
you,
Pat.
by war's end in 1918, 1 million soldiers from 50 different countries were wounded, missing, or killed in actions on the field of Flanders. Okay?
In the Battle of Flanders alone.
Well, there was several. There was 4 years worth of battles. Now, in 1915, a Canadian gentleman named John McCrae wrote a poem called In Flanders Fields. Okay? The first couple of lines of the poem he wrote are, In Flanders fields the poppies blow, between the crosses row on row. Okay? Now, there was a woman a female professor, her name was Mona Bell Michael, okay, who in 1915 wrote kind of like a response to the Canadian man's poem, okay, called We Shall Keep the Faith. And what she did was she always wore a red poppy as a symbol of remembrance for those in the war, because the war was still going on. After the war, she went back to teaching, and she was teaching a class of disabled servicemen. Realizing the need to provide financial and occupational support, she got the idea of selling the poppies to help raise money for the veterans. Okay, she made it her life goal to make the poppy the symbol of the veteran. Okay, I was reading online. Well, she died in 1934, and I was reading online. They estimated by 2017, in monetary terms, over $3 billion worth of poppies have been sold since Miss Michael started back in 1920.
$3 billion.
And we're not talking about inflation adjusted. $3 billion worth of poppies. Okay, that is how the poppy came to symbolize the veterans. Okay, and just a couple of things.
There's more?
Give me my water, would you?
Which one is your water?
You're not doing
Anyone
a
of-
set now. You don't need
Yeah.
to.
So there are extensive poppy fields in Flanders.
No,
Where is Flanders again?
Flanders is in southwest Belgium.
Belgium?
The Netherlands?
Yes, Belgium.
One of the first uses of LaRocque wrote in there, one of the first uses of WMD.
WMD.
Yes.
I have no idea. I just
I don't know
wanted
if he's
to.
talking
Weapons
about-
of mass destruction?
I don't think grenades are considered
I
weapons of
don't
mass
know, but he
destruction.
just put that on there. So
Maybe they
That's
meant
why I
hero-
ignored
maybe
it.
they meant
I saw it
heroin.
earlier.
Well,
That's
you-
why
well,
I
I
ignored
just
it.
wanted the audience to see that he's giving us our feedback.
Well, you might, certain towns in Flanders are Ypres and Passchendaele. You might have heard of those from World War I.
No.
Okay, you haven't. Okay.
Wasn't there.
Anyway, by the way, Australia and New Zealand celebrate their veterans, known as Anzac Day, on April 25th.
What's Armistice Day?
Armistice Day was the original name of Veterans Day.
A veteran.
In
No, right. Armistice over in Europe. Right, right.
In
right.
1954, Congress wanted to expand it to all veterans. And we called it Veterans Day, and that's when it first started to be
Right.
a national holiday.
But over in Europe, they still call it Armistice Day.
They call it Armistice Day or Remembrance Day, depending on
Remembrance Day, right.
on what nation you're talking about.
Did you get a day
Is that the
off from
same as
work?
VE Day, Victory in Europe Day?
Well, VE Day was when the Germans surrendered.
So it's different than their
Right.
Armistice
VJ
Day.
Day was
Right,
when-
that was World War II.
Right.
that was World War II, right?
Right, but we're cutting ties with them anyway, it looks like, so
No.
it doesn't matter.
You know. Australia and New Zealand, it's known as Anzac Day. They celebrated on April 25th.
Anthrax?
Anzac.
Oh, I
Anzac.
thought you said Anthrax Day.
In honor of the men who fought the Battle of Gallipoli against the Ottomans.
So why not?
Gallipoli.
Why is it Anzac? What does that mean?
Australia, New Zealand armistice celebration.
Ah, that would have been
What's an
helpful to put in
armistice
there.
celebration? Oh, I'm asking you. This is your segment. I'm asking you questions.
Hey, you got new glasses?
Don't forget
Yeah, I use them for
don't forget
driving
we
by.
celebrate Veterans Day.
Yes,
Memorial Day.
yeah, we do- right.
don't celebrate Memorial Day because we're mourning
Right.
those who passed. Veterans Day we celebrate their service and the fact that
The
they made it through
veterans,
the
right.
war.
The
How do you
memorials for the
celebrate?
ones that
What?
died,
How
right.
do you celebrate with a poppy bagel?
No, you sell well. You like
Sesame seeds. Is that when Big Bird beat up? Is that when Big Bird beat up the?
That's what Mr. Hooper got
Mr.
live.
Snuffleupagus? Well, listen.
Well, we're running out of
Anytime
time,
I-
thankfully.
I am.
That's what
Listen.
the audience
I am
do.
glad that all that is the money
Finished
that
with.
she. No, the money she raised. I didn't know that about the poppy.
$3 billion, but where did the money go? It all went to veterans?
Well,
We hope,
we'd like to
we
think
hope.
that. Don't forget, you're talking about almost 100 years worth of sales.
it's still going
everything
on?
like that. Yes, and to this day, that's why the poppy is sold and everything like that. She wore it from the time she wrote the poem until the day she died. She had a vast garden
Oh, wow.
of poppies in
Wow.
the Midwest where she lived.
So she probably failed the drug test for a civil service job. 'cause she had too many problems.
All
All right,
right,
I think that's.
I got one more.
Oh well.
Oh,
Okay.
we got one more.
How do you
The
come-
state of Israel celebrates its veterans with Yom HaZakaron, or Day of Memory.
Did you see that they
Oh,
got shelled? I
Yam
saw it on
has a cut on.
Facebook.
Got a cut on his hand. What is this?
Those Palestinian bastards were firing missiles into Israel again.
Wait, let's not
Just
get political
yesterday.
here.
Okay.
Hold on.
We
no.
don't-
Israel celebrates.
No,
Israel
it's-
should drop the big one on them.
It's hold on. Israel celebrates those who died in terrorist attacks and politically motivated violence also.
They
as
should
well as
fire
any
their
war.
frickin' Rob, blow the shit out of them.
All right, John, easy, easy.
Listen,
And
the Mossad don't play around.
I,
They don't fuck around, that's true.
and
You gotta
guys,
wrap
I'm
it up
gonna-
soon.
I'm
We're running
gonna
out of time.
let-
I want to promote a couple of
I'm
shows
gonna
before
let,
we go off.
Pat
Thank you,
Marone
Pat.
finish.
That was
No,
excellent.
no, I don't mean it to cut you.
No, I'm done.
Can we just promote that show for
Thanks,
Friday
Pat.
on the thing? Not yeah. All right, use that flyer. Friday.
We got Steve Oliva, Patty G, Claudia Stavola, John LaRocchia himself, and I believe Paul Anthony is on that
Yes.
show also.
He is, yes.
Yes.
You can get it on
Please come down.
laughtersaves.org.
Please come down. It's a great show.
Angela's House and
Wampage's
Everything
Falls.
Special Needs,
Wampage's
two very
Falls.
worthwhile charities.
Well,
We
Wampage's
need you to
Falls.
come,
Nobody's gonna
okay?
go see it. We're in, and Steve and I are in Wampage's Falls Thursday.
Right, so if you want to take an
with
hour and a
Jack
half ride
Cooley
up there,
and Claudia Stavola.
Well, some people might. We have an audience up there, like
We have a big following. at
500
Wampage's
people.
Falls.
It's at the wine bar.
You got your cousins can go over there. Your in-laws.
my
Divine-
in-laws can go.
I think it's
They could,
Divine
actually.
Wine Bar.
They won't, but
Yeah.
they could.
And I think we should
All right.
all stand.
So listen, we're
I
going to
think
wrap
we
it
should
up.
all stand
We're
and
going to say
salute.
thank you once
Thank
again
you.
to our
Thank you,
veterans.
We're going to
for
go to the
watching.
Massapequa Diner.
Veterans,
Yes.
thank you for your
Thank you,
service.
veterans.
Service.
And thank
You
you all
are the
for
best.
watching.
Yes, we're going to the Massapequa Diner. If you want to join us.
Happy,
All right.
happy Veterans Day.
All right. Happy Veterans.
Old leather gloves, we're slapping in hands. Popcorn and peanuts, we're working the stands. Pink cotton candy, love on a stick.